Wait, can anybody hear me now? Oh. Wait, can anybody hear me? There we go. Okay, sorry. I was trying to load something up. It was taking a while. Okay. Okay. Alright, there we go. this is a stupid setup. Most YouTubers that stream like this, but I needed to have a second screen, which is my TV up there and my laptop over there. So, yeah. I should have no, I should have done this. I should have hit starting soon. Where does it say starting soon? Yeah, that's what I should have done. That's why I should have hit. But no, I didn't do it. I just went to action already. My oh well. Anyways, let's go to my channel. I'm gonna mute this stream immediately because then it's gonna be a big echo. There we go. Chat. Alright. Pop out chat. Okay, now I'm gonna position this on the left side. Then we'll do this. Let me just squeeze, or I could just probably, there we go. That's nice. That's good enough. That looks good enough. Alright, there we go. There we go. Okay, let me just, hold on a second. Let me just test out. Let me just type something. Hello. How much can I see? Okay. Okay, so it's not cut off. Okay, because I was trying to fit the room over here. Now, today we are going to do a live stream of watching Mr. Ballen tell some stories, some true scary stories. So, actually, hold on a second. There we go. Let me, hold on, let me adjust. I'm gonna have to. Crop, no. Shift, is it shift? Oh, no, that stretches everything. Oh, no. Oh, no. No, I don't want anything to get stretched up. No. Alt. Wait, it's Alt, right? Yes, okay. There we go, Alt. There, that's it. There, that's better. I think I should make the screen a little bit bigger so you can see more of my face. There we go. Alright. Now, Mr. Ballen. This YouTuber tells stories, true scary stories. I don't know, some of them are not real. They don't seem believable, but most of them that doesn't have anything to do with ghosts, just has serial killers, are obviously true. So, yeah. We are going to watch his scary stories. All right, now you guys can't hear him. You guys can't hear him obviously because I just
one ship would pretend.
Okay, hold on. One
ship would pretend.
Okay. I was just testing out if you guys could hear him too and hear what he's saying. All right, let's go.
In 2000, a handwritten note was discovered at the bottom of the ocean up in the Arctic Circle, and it revealed this absolutely horrifying true story. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please invite the like button to go on a long bike ride with you, but make sure before you step off, you replace the water in their water bottles with hot dog water. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story. On the morning of August 12, 2000, 33 of Russia's best naval warships stopped inside of a particular section of the Barents Sea. The Barents Sea is this 800-mile stretch of freezing water up in the Arctic Circle just northwest of Russia, and these 33 ships were in this stretch of water for this huge military training exercise. Basically, they were going to run through some war game scenarios where, for example, one ship would pretend to be an enemy combatant, and the other ships would work on locking onto that ship and firing at them. But of course, they wouldn't use real missiles or torpedoes. They would use duds that didn't actually explode. And so around 9 a.m., the man who was in charge of this entire operation, his name was Admiral Popov, and he was actually on board one of these 33 ships. He authorized one of the submarines that was out there to shoot 2 of their dummy torpedoes at a target, an enemy combatant, which was actually just one of the other ships. And so as soon as he did this, he was authorizing the start of this multi-day long exercise. And so all day and all night, they're doing these war game scenarios, and by the following morning, so 24 hours into this exercise, Admiral Popov stepped away from the action to speak with Russian reporters on the phone. And during this interview, he tells them that so far, the training exercise is going exactly to plan, and that it looks like it will ultimately be a huge success. However, there was a problem. At the same time, Admiral Popov is giving his remarks to the reporters about how well this exercise is going, the family members of some of the crews that were out there as part of this exercise, they heard a rumor that the exercise was not going to plan, that in fact, something bad had happened to one of the ships. But none of the family members had any more information beyond that. Even though this rumor was just that, a rumor, the family members of these crews that are participating in this exercise, they naturally became very worried. And so they all that morning began calling the naval base where the 33 ships had originated, asking for more information. And the phone operator on the base that was receiving all of these calls that morning at first was telling these family members that no, nothing's going on. I haven't heard anything. There's no issues. But eventually this phone operator let slip that in fact they too had heard the rumor that something bad had happened, and they think it actually might be true. But when this family member who heard this pressured the phone operator for more information, the operator clammed up and said, I can't give you anything else. And so at that point, the family member hung up the phone and called the media and told them what was going on. And the media, as soon as they had the story, they went right to Admiral Popov and they said, hey, can you address this rumor? And he didn't. He did not respond to any of the media's inquiries. And in a weird way, that was kind of reassuring to the family members of these crews, because they're thinking, if Admiral Popov is just kind of ignoring this rumor and he's staying out there out on the Barents Sea, still conducting this exercise, then certainly nothing bad could have happened, right? And so for the rest of that day, Sunday, the family members of these crews and the media just kind of did nothing because there wasn't anything else to do besides wait to see if there was any new news coming out of this exercise. And the following day, on Monday the 14th, so 48 hours after the start of this training exercise, there would be news. Russian officials would go on TV and they would address the rumor by saying, well, yeah, it is true. Something did happen out during this exercise. The Kursk, which was the name of one of the submarines that was one of the 33 ships that was part of this exercise, they experienced some minor technical difficulties that forced them to ground their vessel at the bottom of the Barents Sea. But don't worry, this is normal. We're in touch with them through the radio. Everybody is fine. We are pumping air and power into their submarine, and before long, we will have them back on the surface. There's nothing to worry about. Now, naturally, the family members of the Kursk crew specifically, they panicked when they heard this, because even though the government is acting totally confident that everything is fine, they did not feel confident that everything was fine. Their family members are trapped on the bottom of the ocean.
Oh.
But at the same time, they remembered the Kursk, the actual submarine, was a very special and very safe submarine. The Kursk was quite literally Russia's best ship. They had spared no expense on it. It was extremely expensive. And it was massive. It was bigger than 2 football fields put together. And it was constructed out of this very specialized, highly reinforced steel that allowed it to take a direct hit from a torpedo and just keep on going, no problem. It was also outfitted on the inside with all the latest and greatest technology. And so if you were going to be stuck at the bottom of the ocean inside of a submarine, you would want to be stuck inside of the Kursk. And so the families took solace in that. But over the next couple of days, despite the government reassuring everybody in the news that everything was fine, it's totally minor, we're going to have the Kursk up in no time, despite all that, the Kursk still had not been raised to the surface, and the government was not giving the families or the media any new information. And so in this kind of void of no real information, the families began to panic and the media began to speculate. Did the Kursk really suffer from minor technical difficulties like the government was saying, or was this something more serious? This question would be answered on August 21st, so 9 days after this training exercise had begun, when a Norwegian dive team, they were out there to assist in the recovery effort, they were able to dive down to the Kursk, and they actually got inside of the submarine through an escape hatch. An escape hatch is like this watertight closet that kind of sits on the outside of the submarine, and it allows people to go in and out of the submarine without flooding it. And once these Norwegian divers got inside of the Kursk and had a look around, they were totally shocked at what they saw.
Oh my god. Rias Gremory! I love Rias Gremory. I want Rias Gremory. Sorry, I just got distracted. The show High School DxD, I love that show. Alright, now this is just some stupid bullcrap that went on.
The exact details of what happened inside the Kursk are still debated today, and probably will be for some time. There is one aspect of the story that is more or less universally accepted, and that is what happened inside of compartment number 9. The Kursk was divided into 9 watertight segments called compartments. Number 1 was at the front of the submarine, and then it went 2, 3, 4, all the way down to 9 in the very back of the submarine. And the reason we know what happened inside of compartment number 9 is because a 27-year-old Kursk crew member, Dmitry Kolesnikov, told us. Dmitry was born into a family of submariners. His father was a submariner, and his father's father was a submariner, and Dmitry idolized them, and so growing up, that was all he ever wanted to be. And in the late 1990s, his dream would become a reality when he commissioned as a naval officer in the Russian Navy and was given orders to serve on board the Kursk. 4 months before this training exercise out in the Barents Sea, Dmitry met and very quickly married a high school teacher named Olga, and right after their wedding, one of the first things he did is he brought her on board the Kursk for a tour. And Olga brought along a video camera and filmed her tour through the ship, and on this video, Dmitry is all smiles. He is so happy to be leading her around the ship and introducing her to people and showing her all the cramped spaces on board the submarine. It's really obvious that Dmitry was so proud of his job. Not only of his job, but also just so proud to be sharing this part of his life with his wife. Fast forward to August 12th, 2000, and Dmitry, along with 117 other crew members on board the Kursk, had just arrived at their designated section in the Barents Sea for this training exercise. And at 11:27 a.m., the captain of the Kursk came over the radio and he told Admiral Popov, who was not on the Kursk, he was on a separate ship, he told the Admiral that the Kursk was about to fire their 2 dummy torpedoes. After this call was made, the men in the first compartment compartment of the Kursk. So at the very front of the Kursk, this is where all the torpedoes, both fake and real, are stored. They began loading these 2 dummy torpedoes. Meanwhile, Dmitri was all the way back in the 7th compartment, the engine room. That was where he was stationed. He was actually in charge of everybody who worked in the 7th compartment. And so as these 2 dummy torpedoes are being loaded, Dmitri and his men, there weren't that many of them, they were twisting dials and pulling levers, when all of a sudden there's this really loud crashing sound, and then the ship shudders and then jolts hard to one side, as if someone had grabbed the front of the submarine and just forced it to one direction. What Dmitri and the men in the 7th compartment could not have possibly known was that one of the real torpedoes in the 1st compartment had malfunctioned and it exploded. But because of how well built the Kursk was, how strong the exterior walls were, this torpedo, as advertised, did not puncture through it. It did a lot of damage and caused a massive fire, but the sub was not sinking. So back in the 7th compartment, Dmitri, he stands up from being jostled to the ground, and the alarms are going off and everything is totally chaotic. Everyone's asking what's going on. And Dmitri, he takes charge and he tells his men to follow the emergency protocol, which was to seal the watertight doors of your compartment. And so in this case, he sealed both the doors, one leading to the 6th compartment and the other leading to the 8th compartment. There's a lot of reasons for why they do this, but in essence, if there's a leak somewhere in the submarine, by sealing off your compartment, you protect yourself from being flooded. As Dmitri and his men are sealing these 2 doors, they would have begun to see and smell smoke as it came in through the ventilation ducts, because there was now this uncontrolled fire raging at the front of the submarine. They also would have felt the submarine suddenly pitch upward at a very steep angle as the captain of the Kursk desperately tried to surface. But before they could reach the surface, that uncontained fire reached the other live torpedoes, and it set off this almost instantaneous chain reaction of explosions. This second collective blast killed virtually everyone in the front half of the submarine. Either the blast itself blew them apart, or once this hole in the front of the submarine, because the second blast did puncture the walls, once that hole was created, all this Arctic water began flooding into the submarine. So if you didn't get killed by the blast, you very quickly drowned. The only people who survived the 1st and 2nd explosions were anyone in the 6th compartment going backwards. So 6, 7, 8, and 9. And so Dmitri and the other men in the 7th compartment, they would have been definitely badly shaken up from that 2nd explosion. That completely rocked the submarine and sent them tumbling all over the place. But they would have been very alive and very aware of the terrible situation they were in. And so I would imagine that Dmitri and the others tried to grab onto any of the piping or anything they could as the submarine, because the control tower has been destroyed, just angled straight down and began careening downward. At 11:32 a.m., just 4 minutes after that initial explosion, the Kursk slammed nose first into the ocean floor 350 feet below the surface, and then the back half of the Kursk came down to rest. We don't know exactly what happened on board the Kursk for those first 2 hours after they hit the ocean floor. What we do know is they had power, so there was light inside of the submarine.
Good.
Also, the air purifiers were still working, so despite the chemicals and smoke that was in the air, it was relatively easy to breathe. During those first 2 hours, we also know that at some point, Dmitri and the other men in his compartment must have heard banging coming from the 6th compartment, because remember, they had sealed off the doors both to the 8th and...
This movie called The Command, this is probably, I'm not sure. This is probably based off of a true story that Mr. Ballen is right now talking about. So, maybe, I don't know. I never heard of it. But, yeah.
The 6th compartment, and so Dmitri decided to break emergency protocol, and he opened the door to the 6th compartment to allow any of the survivors that were banging on the door to come into their compartment. And when Dmitri and his men opened that door and looked into the 6th compartment, they would have seen that it was rapidly flooding, and most likely anybody forward of that compartment, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, they were already dead. By 1:30 p.m., Dmitri and his men in the 7th compartment and the other survivors from the 6th compartment, they were forced to retreat from the 7th over to the 8th compartment and then finally into the 9th compartment because of flooding. Even though they had sealed off their watertight doors, the walls were no longer watertight because this huge explosion had sent shrapnel flying down the body of the submarine, puncturing holes in all of the walls. And so it didn't matter if you shut your watertight door. Eventually, as one compartment would fill up, it would begin leaking through all the cracks in the walls. And so Dmitri and all of the people he was with, they would have been very aware of that. And so by the time they got all the way back to the 9th compartment, the very back compartment, there was nowhere else to go. The water was going to eventually reach them, and they were doomed unless they got rescued or if they left out of the escape hatch. Despite how absolutely terrifying this situation must have been, Dmitri remained calm. In fact, he was so calm that he pulled out a piece of paper as he's sitting in this cramped 9th compartment with these 22 other men, and he writes the date and time in the corner, and then he begins to kind of describe what had happened. He talks about there being an explosion, and he thought he and these 22 men were the only survivors, and he says they're now trapped in the 9th compartment, and they have to wait for rescue. He also talks about how they had considered going out the escape hatch, but apparently it hadn't worked. After Dmitri wrote this very neat, very legible, very organized note, he folded it up and put it in his pocket, and then for the next hour and a half, he sat inside of the 9th compartment with the 22 others, and the power went out, which thrust them into absolute pitch darkness. I mean, completely black inside of there. And the temperatures, because the power was out, suddenly began to plummet. And then the worst part was the water began seeping through the walls. And so Dmitri and the other men, they would have known that it's just a matter of time before this room fills completely with water. And there is nowhere to go. And so with the water rising all around them, Dmitri pulls that paper back out of his pocket and he adds to the note. And this time, his handwriting is barely legible. And it's because he's probably suffering from hypothermia, so he's shaking. He can't see what he's writing. In fact, he writes the words, "I'm writing blind," to indicate it's totally dark in the room. And in this second note he leaves on this piece of paper, which was...
So he was writing blind. It was pitch black, and he was writing in the dark. He knows what he's writing, but he can't see what he was writing. Wow.
Was dated and time-stamped an hour and a half after the first one. Dmitri indicates that he does not think he's going to survive. It's very clear none of them think they're going to survive. Then, with the remaining space on this piece of paper, Dmitri writes this very loving and very thoughtful message to his wife and his family saying goodbye. And then his final words on this note are, "Regards to everybody, no need to despair, Kolesnikov." After he wrote this second message on this note, he folded the paper up, put it in his breast pocket, and then in total darkness, listening to the sound of water rushing into the room, he and the other 22 damned souls prepared to die. We don't know how long Dmitri and the other 22 men survived in compartment 9, but experts say the entire Kursk submarine was completely flooded 8 hours after the initial explosion. One of the most heartbreaking aspects of this case is that Dmitri and these 22 other men could have potentially been saved if the Russian response was a little bit more urgent and coordinated. Despite 2 of these ships, including the ship that Admiral Popov was on, hearing and feeling the second explosion that the Kursk experienced, nothing was done about it. It was reported, but no one really did anything. And then when no one could get in touch with the Kursk after they had said they were going to fire those 2 dummy torpedoes, everybody else, all the other ships, Admiral Popov, they all just said, you know what, I'm sure it's just their radios and they're fine and they'll be in touch soon. And so it wasn't until later that evening when the Russian Navy even figured out there was a major problem with the Kursk, that the Kursk has vanished. And then it would be several hours before they even got a rescue submersible in the water down to the Kursk. And then once it was down there, they could not latch onto the escape hatch on the submarine. And so even if there were survivors inside of the submarine, they would not have been able to exit into this rescue submersible. And so for days and days, the Russians struggled to try to get inside of the submarine and kept turning down foreign aid from Norway, from America, from Great Britain. And then finally, 9 days after the Kursk had sank, the Russians did accept foreign aid. And that's when the Norwegian dive team, they went down and they were able to open up the escape hatch. And when they went inside the submarine, they saw it was completely flooded. There were bodies floating everywhere. And that's when ultimately Dmitri's body was found, and they found that note tucked in his breast pocket. Russia would go on to award the entire crew of the Kursk with the Order of Courage, which is a very significant military award. And the families of the crew of the Kursk were given 10 years salary each. They were also given free housing in any Russian city, and their children would all have their college education paid for. So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the comments section what it is and where you found it. So give us the timestamp. And if you're the first to do that, we'll pin you at the top of the comment section. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, please invite the like button to go on a long bike ride with you. But before you step off, make sure you replace the water in their water bottles with hot dog water. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 1 or 2 video uploads. We are now selling merchandise like flannels and hats and sweatshirts and all sorts of stuff. If you're interested, go to shopmrballen.com. If you want to learn about upcoming deals and promotions for our shop, go to our shop's Instagram page. The username is shopmrballen. If you want to get in touch with me, you can direct message me on Instagram or on Twitter. My username for both platforms is the same. It's just Mr. Ballen. I also have a ton of content over on TikTok where my username is also Mr. Ballen. We have a second YouTube channel just called Mr. Ballen Shorts where we post random short videos and lost episodes. We also have a Facebook page just called Mr. Ballen where we post condensed versions of the longer episodes you see on YouTube. If you have a story suggestion, please submit it to our subreddit just called Mr. Ballen. It's linked in the description below. So whether I see you on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, Facebook, or some combination, just know that I really appreciate your support. And until next time, that's going to do it. See ya.
Who was Dmitri? Let me look this up. Dmitri. Wait, no, that's probably not it. No, wait. No, that's not it. What was his name? What was that guy's name?
Everybody in the news that everything was fine, devoid of no real information, and through an escape hatch. And the Kursk and had to look around. Because a 27-year-old Kursk crew member, Dmitry Kolesnikov,
they don't have a profile of him. Okay. I was just looking that up. Okay. Next story. There's a lot to catch up on Mr. Ballen because I haven't been watching him a lot. I don't know why. I guess I got bored. But now I knew at some point I needed to. This statue will kill you. This one's 32 minutes long, jeez. I kind of want to look at the shocking police footage. Okay. Okay, heads, the statue video, tails, the police footage. Flip a coin. Heads. Alright.
I'm making this quick video because it has been 1 month since joining the Cashflow 101 system, and so
this video is brought to you by Current. Today, we're going to look at 3 places you can't go and people who went there anyways. But before we get into today's stories, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please offer to do the like button's laundry, but be sure to stop the dryer when their clothes are still slightly damp. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's stories. In the fall of 2002, 19-year-old Gemma Houghton moved into her dorm room at the very prestigious University of Manchester in England to begin her freshman year. Her first couple of months at the school were relatively uneventful. She spent all of her time focusing on her studies, and so she really had not gone out and met any new people. But in early 2003, so about halfway through her freshman year, she was standing outside of her dorm when this boy she had never met before walked up to her and introduced himself. He was this tall, very handsome, very charming guy. He said his name was Ian Redmond. He was a senior at the school, and he in fact lived in the same building that she did, and so he just wanted to introduce himself. Now, Gemma was not looking for a boyfriend, but she was immediately attracted to Ian, and Ian would later say the feeling was mutual. This chance encounter would ultimately blossom into a full-fledged romantic relationship, one that would ultimately lead to Ian 6 years later proposing to Gemma on Christmas Eve 2009. That same year they got engaged, the couple, who had diligently saved money for years and years and years, were able to pool their money and buy a house together. It was not a very nice house. It was a fairly beat-up cottage in this little town in England that would need a lot of work, but Ian and Gemma were actually very excited to do the work. They looked at this as an opportunity to make the house exactly the way they wanted it, and it was a chance for them to spend some quality time together. So for the next 2 years, during all of their free time, Ian and Gemma would work on their home, and then finally in August of 2011, right before their actual wedding day, they finished the renovation. Their home is done. And so they get married, and then literally right after their wedding, instead of going right into a honeymoon, they just moved right into their dream home that night. And so for the next couple of days, the newlyweds got to enjoy being husband and wife for the first time inside of their dream home, and then it was time to go on the honeymoon. In addition to having set aside money for the down payment on their home, the couple had also set aside money for this honeymoon. They wanted it to be an amazing vacation. And so what they decided to do for their honeymoon was to go to Seychelles, which is this island nation in the Indian Ocean, which many say has the most beautiful beaches in the world. So on August 10th, the couple hops on a plane and they fly to Seychelles. And when they land, they check into their resort, which is this unbelievable place that overlooks this perfect beach with white sand and crystal clear waters. And then after getting checked in, the couple goes down to a restaurant and they're having a bite to eat. And as they're sitting there, they're probably thinking to themselves, this is going to be the best vacation ever. During the first week of their trip, the couple was very active, spending lots of time exploring the island and going out on different excursions and going to lots of restaurants. They were just all over the place. And so come Tuesday, August 16th, which was the start of their second week and final week of this honeymoon, the couple was kind of tired from all the activity. And so they decided they would just have a lazy day at the beach that day. And so the couple grabbed their swimsuits and their towels and their chairs, and they left the resort and headed down to the beach right outside. And then after finding a decent spot on the sand, they set up their chairs and towels, put their stuff down, and Gemma, she laid down on one of the chairs to begin sunbathing, and Ian, he grabbed his fins and his snorkel, and he kissed Gemma on the cheek and said he was going to go down to the water and go for a swim. Gemma remembers watching Ian as he walked across the beach and stopped in front of the water and put on his big fins and got his snorkel on, and then he kind of awkwardly duck walked his way into the water. And Gemma remembers just smiling and laughing to herself, watching him awkwardly do this, and then thinking to herself how lucky she was to be married to such an amazing guy. She really loved him so much. After Ian had finally gotten into the water and had begun his snorkeling journey, Gemma laid back and began to doze off to sleep. A little while later, though, Gemma suddenly woke up to the sound of what almost sounded like someone's...
Huh? Okay, I was just wondering if she was talking to me. It's Mother's Day, but my parents are just watching Gold Rush. But if they ever decide that they want to invite me to hang out with them, they can. I'm just doing this because I wanted to have something to do.
Sneezing really, really loudly. And so instinctively, she sat up and scanned the water line for her husband, but all she saw were other tourists in the water swimming and snorkeling and doing all sorts of stuff. She couldn't find Ian. And then she heard,
"Do you ever have a really clutch clip, but then you realize that you forgot to press the record button?" That's why Outplayed exists by Overwolf. It's a really great program that allows you to record all your games automatically for free on Overwolf.
a male voice.
Hold on a second. This story is almost over. We're halfway to... Oh, wait, no, wait. Yeah, halfway.
Like someone sneezing really, really loudly. And so instinctively, she sat up and scanned the water line for her husband, but all she saw were other tourists in the water swimming and snorkeling and doing all sorts of stuff. She couldn't find Ian. And then she heard a male voice calling out for help, and it was coming off to the right towards the top of the beach, pretty far away from her. And she turned and she saw Ian. Ian was about 60 feet off of the sand, so he's well out into the water, and he appeared to be kind of hunched forward with his arm kind of in the water, and he's waving his other arm in the air. It was like he was stuck on something, and before Gemma could get up and run to him or help him in any way,
is it a
Ian
shark?
Just begins to scream at the top of his lungs. When Ian began screaming, there was a surgeon who was also on vacation at this beach who was in a boat near where
It's either a shark or what is it called? Have you guys watched Castaway, where Tom Hanks is trying to leave the ocean, but the waves were too strong and he collapsed, and then he gets his leg stabbed into some kind of, I think, Carl, something sharp. I don't know what it's called, but that's probably it. I don't know.
Ian was. He hears the scream and he boats over to Ian, and he and the guy who was in the boat with him managed to pull Ian out of the water. They get him on the boat, and Ian is alive and he's conscious, but he is missing his entire left arm. He's missing the majority of his left thigh, and there was a huge chunk missing from his midsection. It would turn out Ian had been attacked by a bull shark, one of the most aggressive sharks in the world. That sneezing sound that Gemma had heard that had startled her awake was the sound Ian had made through his snorkel when the shark bit down on him. The surgeon rushed Ian to the shore and pulled him out and got him onto the sand and began trying to save his life. At the same time, Gemma had come running up the beach, and she managed to push through the quickly forming crowd, and she drops down next to her husband. And Ian at this point is alive and he's conscious. He's very badly hurt, but he's looking up and he's clearly making eye contact with Gemma. And Gemma, she's looking down at her husband and she's making clear eye contact with him, and they don't really say much. It was like this horrible moment where all they could do was just be in the moment together. And so during this kind of silent acknowledgement, Ian would ultimately pass away. It would turn out over the past few weeks, there had been a rash of shark attacks at this beach, including one other fatal attack on another tourist. Because shark attacks in Seychelles were so unheard of, they believed this had to be the work of one rogue bull shark. That was the one shark that was doing all of these attacks. And so because this shark had not been captured or killed, the country had actually instituted a temporary ban on swimming at this beach and a few other beaches. But for whatever reason, the ban had not been communicated effectively to the tourists, nor had it been enforced on the tourists. And so Gemma and Ian had no idea the water was a dangerous place to be. They just looked out and saw other tourists swimming around and believed...
Like, yeah, it looks like a nice beach. It looks like a nice beach. When you go to beaches, they'd be like, it's just a nice beach. Other people around. What's the worst could probably happen? Yet you don't know there's a goddamn bull shark swimming around that beach. It looks like a nice beach. It would look like the beach that I would want to go in and swim and hang out in. So yeah, anybody would want to go there, not knowing that there's a bull shark lurking around among us. Not talking about the video game. Like, yeah, it looks like... Yeah, it says real photo, so yeah, that's the actual beach. That sucks. They had a happy marriage. Everything was going great until that tragic moment that her husband passed away by... Ugh. Let's continue.
It was totally safe, when in reality, it obviously wasn't. Gemma would quickly return to England, and she would host her husband's funeral in the same church she and he had been married in 10 days earlier. Before we get into our...
Their marriage, not only that, their marriage only lasted 10 days. That's sad. That didn't last long. Only 10 days. It's ironic, don't you think?
Next story, I want to talk about today's sponsor, Current. Have you ever felt like everyone around you has a weirdly deep understanding of their personal finances? They're investing in the stock market, which was a comedy that starred this very capable and rugged Australian crocodile hunter who goes to New York City. One of the 35 million Americans who saw this film was a 24-year-old model from Virginia named Ginger Meadows. And after seeing this film, Ginger felt inspired to actually go to Australia to see it for herself because it looked so amazing in this movie. So a couple of months later, in March of 1987, Ginger, by herself, hops on a plane and flies to Perth, which is a major city in Western Australia. And her plan was she would land in Australia and then work odd jobs to make a little bit of cash and then use that cash to fund her travels all over the country. And then at some point, after she was tired of doing that, she would head back to the United States. So she lands in Perth and immediately she sees her first opportunity to make some money. There had been this huge sailing competition in the city leading up to the weekend she arrived there. And so she saw all these luxury yachts anchored at all these docks along the coastline, and Ginger's thinking to herself, you know, these huge ships, they have crews that work on them basically full time. Maybe one of these boats could use an extra set of hands. And so Ginger, who's very friendly and outgoing, she went right down to one of these docks and she stopped in front of the very first yacht she saw, which was this huge luxury 100-foot yacht. And she introduced herself to the captain of this boat. And she said, hey, you know, can I hitch a ride with you guys to the next place you're going? And in exchange, I'll work for you. And as it happened, the captain was actually looking for another crew member to assist their chef. And so he said, okay, well, can you cook? And Ginger said, yeah, I'm a great cook. And he said, okay, well, you're hired. You can be the chef's assistant. And so Ginger, she climbs on board and she meets the rest of the 5 other crew members, including the chef who she'd be working with. And the chef's name was Jane, and those two would become very close. And then shortly after Ginger had come aboard, the captain cast off their lines and they headed out to sea. Their next stop was going to be New Guinea, which was roughly 14 days of travel away. After about a week at sea, the captain realized they were dangerously low on fresh water. And so he decided to take a detour and turn east and head inland along this river system that would bring them to this large freshwater pool, which he also knew had this huge waterfall that dumped down into it. And so he figured they could go right underneath this waterfall and fill up their jugs with all this fresh water and then head back out and they'd be good. So on the morning of March 29th, the captain anchored the yacht out at sea near the mouth of this river system, and then he lowered the yacht's dinghy, which was a smaller, more agile boat. And once that was in the water, he, Ginger, Jane, and the rest of the crew, they hop in this dinghy along with all these large empty water jugs, and they begin making their way towards this river. And so they're traveling up this river for a little while, and then finally they get to this huge freshwater pool, and right in front of them is this amazing waterfall, and everybody is just totally awestruck by this waterfall. It's like a gem in the middle of nowhere, because they're in very rugged Australia at this point. And so the captain, he brings the dinghy right near the base of the waterfall, and one by one they hold up their water jugs and they fill them with fresh water, and then they're about to turn and go back out to sea and get back on their yacht when the captain thinks to himself, you know what, we've been at sea for 7 days straight, it's been very monotonous, maybe it would be a good thing to stick around here for a little bit longer and maybe even hike up to the top of this waterfall and enjoy the view and kind of enjoy the scenery before we head back out to sea. And so he says to his crew, hey, do you guys want to go to the top of this waterfall? And everyone agrees it's a great idea, with the exception of Jane. She did not feel feel like hiking to the top of this waterfall. She said she would stay down in the dinghy and wait for them. Now, this pool is basically surrounded on all sides by just pure cliff face. There really is no place to land this dinghy. There's no flat surfaces. You basically have cliffs that go directly into water, and then also you have the river that feeds back out to the ocean. So the captain brings the dinghy right up against the cliff face right next to this waterfall, and he and Ginger and the other crew members not named Jane climb out of the dinghy onto this cliff face, and they begin climbing, literally climbing up this wall towards the top of the waterfall. Now, everyone was able to do it except for Ginger. She kept slipping on the rocks. It was very steep. It seemed kind of dangerous. And so at some point, she abandons the idea and goes back down to the dinghy with Jane, and the captain and the rest of the crew, they continue up towards the top. And so as Ginger and Jane are sitting in the dinghy watching the other crew members making their way up, they start feeling a little bit left out, and they're like, you know what? Let's try to find an alternate way up to the top of this waterfall. And so they begin scanning out across this pool at the other cliffs kind of surrounding it, and it looked like on the very other side of the pool, there was a less severe cliff face that maybe they would have an easier time climbing up. And so the two women, they jump into the murky brown water and begin swimming directly across this pool towards this other cliff. And when they make it about a third of the way,
doors unlocked.
Scream.
All doors locked. Doors unlocked.
It's happening.
Whatever his link is to our past,
It's pulled
Can't
us
wait to
all
watch
back
that
here.
movie. I can't wait.
he's been one step ahead this whole time.
Hello, Sydney. It's an honor. Scream. Rated R.
Hold on, before we continue watching, I need to talk about this movie, this new movie, Scream.
Jane suddenly stops.
Do you know what's weird about this new movie, Scream? It's the title. What's weird about the title is that this new scary movie called Scream, I don't know why they would just call it Scream. The first Scream movie was already called Scream. So why can't they just call this new Scream movie called Scream 5 or Prepare to Scream or whatever? They could have came up with something a little more creative. You can't just call it Scream, because people are going to get confused between the first Scream movie in 1996 or the newest one in 2021. Or 2022. I don't know when it came out. I know it's 2021 or 2022. I don't know exactly when, but yeah. All right.
On the very other side of the pool, there was a less severe cliff face that maybe they would have an easier time climbing up. And so the two women, they jump into the murky brown water and begin swimming directly across this pool towards this other cliff. And when they make it about a third of the way, Jane suddenly stops, and Ginger notices and turns around and looks at Jane, and she's like, what's going on? And Jane would tell her, you know, something just feels off. This doesn't feel right. Let's go back to the dinghy. Let's just forget about this. But Ginger is like, come on, we're so close. Let's just keep going. It'll be awesome once we get to the top of this waterfall. And so Jane, she's totally hesitant, but she says, okay, fine. And they both continue to swim. And then all of a sudden, they hear their captain, who is now on top of the waterfall, screaming down to them to get out of the water right now. And they notice he is pointing down at the pool in a direction slightly away from where they were. And so they're looking up at him, and they're following his finger down to the part of the pool he's pointing at, and they see there is this tidal wave of water coming towards them. It is a 12-foot long saltwater crocodile that has noticed them, and it is charging straight at them. Now, Jane and Ginger knew they were too far away from the dinghy to be able to swim to it before this crocodile was going to reach them, and so their next best choice was just to turn and swim towards the nearest cliff face, because again, there is no place to get out of the water. There's only cliffs. And so they swim towards this cliff face, which is right on the edge of the bottom of the waterfall, And so water is landing on them, and they reach the cliff face, and they're trying to climb up and pull themselves out of the water, but there's nowhere to grab onto. It's all totally slick. There's no good handholds. And so all they have is this little ledge that is in the water that they're standing on, but they're still halfway into the water. And so after they struggle for a minute trying to pull themselves out of the water and they realize they can't do it, they both just turn around and they lock arms and they look out through the water that's falling down in front of them
God. They
into
actually
the
filmed
pool, and they see this crocodile has followed them, and it is now stopped right on the other side of the water that's falling down, and it's just staring at them with its mouth wide open. And the two women are looking at it. They don't know what to do. And the captain and the other crew members, they see what's going on, and they're trying to climb down as fast as they possibly can to try to rescue them. But it's going to take several minutes at least before they get down to the dinghy. And so Jane and Ginger, they're totally aware of this, and they're just staring at this crocodile, screaming at it, trying to get it to go away. And at some point, the crocodile does just close its mouth and sink below the surface. But now they don't know where it is, and this causes Ginger to completely panic, and she lets go of Jane's arm, and she dives into the water off to the right and attempts to swim away from the crocodile back over to the boat. But Ginger only made it 2 strokes before the crocodile suddenly re-emerged underneath her and grabbed her by the waist and pulled her under the water. Jane is just standing there watching all of this happen in front of her. She has no idea what to do. The crew is still not down in the dinghy, so she's totally stranded, and she's just staring at the area where Ginger has been pulled below the surface. And just seconds after she's been pulled under, the crocodile re-emerges with its head pointed towards Jane, and in its jaws is Ginger. And Ginger's got her arms up over her head. She's wide-eyed, and she's looking right at Jane. And Jane makes eye contact with her, but there's nothing she can do. And she just watched as Ginger again was pulled back under, and this time she did not come up again. Ultimately, Jane would be rescued from the ledge. The crew would get down to the dinghy, they'd swing over, they would pick her up, and then about 2 days later, they would find what was left of Ginger's remains. It would turn out the captain was well aware of the threat the crocodiles posed in this river, and he had told his crew, Ginger and Jane included, about this threat, and that at no point should anyone get in this water. But of course, his warning went unheeded.
I've watched a little bit of this documentary called Faces of Death 2. If you guys don't know what Faces of Death is, it's a documentary series about real life footage of people dying. My dad told me about it. It was, hey Victor. It was about, the first documentary came out, screw it, I'll show you guys right now. Faces of Death. Yeah. So yeah, the first movie, the first documentary came out in November 10th, 1978. Then it got so popular, they decided to make 2, Faces of Death 2. It came out in 1981. Then they started making more. 1985. Then 1987. Faces of Death 4, 1990. And 1995, Faces of Death 5. And I think they made a Faces of Death 6, was probably not popular now. And then 1996. So yeah, they stopped making more of those. I'm looking up and down because I'm getting distracted looking up, and I could just be looking at my laptop. So my life and my childhood ruined. I'm sorry, Victor. I don't mean to depress you with all these scary stories and this scary documentary. So yeah, but not all, they don't always show actual footage of people dying. They, sometimes they reenact it, but most of the footage looks realistic. Like, I saw footage of a guy of this guy electrocuted. I don't know if that was real or not, but then there's a footage of a guy parachuting, and he falls. Okay, Victor. He starts parachuting, and then he falls to his death. And then Faces of Death 2, this is where, okay. Speaking of crocodiles in this one story of this video, there's a footage of a guy parachuting down. And then what happened was he landed in that pond full of crocodiles. And I don't think they showed that. I think they did a reenactment of it. And then all you see is his body parts being eaten by those crocodiles. Then you hear a scream. So I don't think they actually showed it. Then there's Faces of Death. No, same. Then there's this one part of this guy who was high on PCP, aka angel dust. He was in front of a drugstore. He was laying on his side on the concrete in front of the drugstore on the street. You can see his chest, he's got blood on his shirt. And he's like cussing the cops out. He's like, fuck you, man. I'm bleeding over here. And then the police officers were shooting at a guy through a door of the drugstore. Then the door opens, and then you hear a police officer shout at a megaphone saying, "Hold your fire. Somebody's coming in." And then there's this other guy who's probably also high on PCP, aka angel dust. He holds a hostage. He has a gun to that hostage head. I think he shoots the hostage first, then the police officer starts shooting him, and he falls and dies. But the guy that was laying on the ground cussing the cops out, he still lives. So they got to that guy, they pick him up, he starts fighting them while they try to hold him down. They put him underside on a hospital bed. They're taking him to the ambulance, but they would later send him to prison because of the shit he did, all because of drugs. And then in Faces of Death 3, there's a footage of this guy in front of a window getting ready to jump off. And then the cops bring his wife and up to near him, and she begs him please, and he starts shouting at her, "It's over!" And then he jumps and he falls to his death. And then later they bring his wife out of the building. They rush her to the police car into the back seat, and she starts crying on the back seat. It's fucked up. I was waiting for you to make a stream for about half a year. Sorry that you had to wait that long. Drew, do you play Crossy Road? No, what is Crossy Road? I never heard of that game. But anyways, yeah. I might do a live stream of the Faces of Death documentary, but I'm not going to show a lot because it's a messed up documentary. It's a mobile game. Oh, wait a second. I think I know what you're talking about. Hold on. Oh, yeah. Okay, okay. I see now. Why did the chicken cross the road? It looks like a fun game, though. Anyways, I'm not gonna show much because I don't want my YouTube video to get demonetized for showing actual people dying. It would be brutal, so I would just show my face cam. I probably show a little bit of a corner at the bottom of the screen of the documentary. I'm glad you do like that game, Victor. And anyways, they stopped making these documentaries besides because it shows people actually dying. It also shows harm being done to animals. Like, there's a footage of the first faces of death of dogs fighting each other, biting each other to the death. Like, who the hell does that? Why the hell would you get... How do you even get dogs to do that? Why would you... That's messed up. It's different watching a footage of a lion eating a zebra, because everybody knows that's Mother Nature. Everybody knows it's all Mother Nature. It sucks, but that's how it is. I'm pretty sure BBC and National Geographic showed footage of that, because that's the food chain for you. And anyways, but then they show a footage of what they did to, in a different country. They show footage what they've been doing to monkeys. Like, they take the monkey's head off and they start eating its brains. Like, it's messed up. I don't want to watch that crap. I just want to watch I just want to watch the people that's been dying during the documentary. I don't want to see that crap. That's messed up. That's why, because I think in the 1970s it was normal to watch humans be abusive to animals. So I think back then it was different, because if you saw a person mistreating their own dog, you would have nothing to do with it because it's not your dog. You can't tell that person to treat his dog better. But now it's different nowadays. You can get arrested for animal abuse. Do you now have a PlayStation 5 or old PlayStation 4? I still have the old PlayStation 4, Victor. I don't know if they now finally got the PlayStation 5 available now for sale. I can't get the PlayStation 5 right now. We just spent money moving into this new house. But maybe I don't know if I'll ever get the PlayStation 5. Maybe, but I don't know. I just got a laptop from Christmas, and I just got a game, Minecraft Java Edition, on my birthday. My last birthday. Do you have it now, or maybe... What do you mean, Victor? So, yeah, I spent a few games. I said I don't have the PlayStation 5. I still have the PlayStation 4. I can't get the Right now, I just got an expensive laptop for Christmas. And this laptop that I'm using, I know it sucks. Then on my 17th birthday, my last birthday, I bought Minecraft Java Edition. And then I paid a few... I'm going to show you real quick. I paid Among Us. This was free. Then I paid Bigfoot. Then I paid for Lego Indiana Jones. Then I ordered this amazing... Let me... Hold on. Let me... Wait, no. Let me... Oh, wait, yeah. I ordered this amazing bracelet that I love so much. I'm gonna order more stuff that I've been wanting to order from my birthday. Speaking of the documentary Faces of Death, the camera quality on my webcam on my laptop looks like it's recorded from a 1978 camera. Like, look, everything's all grainy. I'm gonna try to connect my GoPro to my laptop. But right now I have the mouse connected to it and I have this keyboard connected to it. So but last time I've connected my GoPro to my laptop, it worked the first time, but then the second time I tried to do it after this laptop got an update, this new look that has it now all of a sudden decided to not work, and I'm like, what the hell? I hate technological difficulties like that. Like, I hate technological difficulties where all of a sudden your device decides to not work. Like, oh, like where all of a sudden your device is now like, oh, screw you, I'm not gonna work for you, I'm not gonna do what you want me to do, without giving me a good explanation. So yeah, I hope I'll try to do that again, then I'll have a better quality camera. I could probably set the GoPro right here, closer to me, in a different angle. But yeah. I want a PlayStation 5 Digital Edition. I move on cloud gaming, no longer physical copies of this game because the digital is the future. Do you say anything else besides that, Han? Okay, oh crap, hold on. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Digital may be the future, I get. I still want the physical. I want the physical version because you never know. I might walk into a store and say, hey, I want that game and I want to buy it. What? What do you mean, what? Like, a second. Anyways, I'm gonna shut my mouth and then just finally play this video and either end the live stream or keep watching. I might watch one more video of Mr. Ballen. Hello, Slurpill12KD.
If you Google the words Burning Man and you click on images, you'll see lots of scantily clad and somewhat wild-looking people roaming around the Nevada desert on strange-looking bikes, and in the background, you'll see all these huge, bizarre statues of aliens and robots and animals, and these statues are all...
But if discs have scratches, then bury the disc game. Is that what you really said, Han? Then burn the disc game. Well, you do have a point. Sometimes that could happen. I remember that'd be an issue sometimes. Back then, when I was very little, like 11 years ago, when I was like 6 years old, like, yeah, that would be an issue. Have a scratch on the disc. Yeah, using disc would be common, but I don't know. I still want the physical copy. I mean, I know everybody's using digital now. Nobody's using DVD players anymore. Like, they're now, like, hell, me and my parents watch most of our movies on Vudu, Netflix, Disney Plus. So, yeah. I get it, yeah. Now people can also just use their PlayStation 4 to watch, well, their game consoles as a DVD to play it. I mean, I get you do have a good point there, Victor. But I still would kind of wouldn't care. But yeah, that's the only way I would watch movies is. How do you feel about The Last of Us remake? For the PlayStation 5. I feel good for it. The Last of Us was one of my top 5 favorite games ever made. It was the best gaming experience I have ever felt. I have ever had. I was like 8 to 9 years old when I played it, and when I finished it, I was sad that the game was over because I actually enjoyed playing that game. Okay, yeah, it's my choice. If you want the digital, and it's your choice too. Both are good, yeah. And it's your choice too, Victor. If you want the digital version, go ahead, get the digital version. It's your choice. I don't really care. I mean, yeah, it would be easier to just... Yeah, it would be easier to just buy it on the PlayStation Store instead of just have to run to the store like it's the 1980s, 1990s, because you can't just download... You couldn't download games. You have to buy games with a cartridge and insert it. I remember me and my cousin Sierra played Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo 64. That was a good game. Even though it was old, that was a good game. She ordered it. And Balgeria is out of stock. No, hold on. Let me see if I can read the whole thing. I'm gonna have to on. No single digital one, dude. Yeah. Let's continue watching this.
Often draped in more wild-looking people, or these statues are on fire, and these wild-looking people are dancing and rejoicing all around the flames. Based on the...
Real quick, what country do you live in? I live in... You already know, you can tell. I live in the United States of America, and I'm now in North Carolina. Oh, hold on, I'm sorry, let me quickly look that up. Hold on, I don't know exact... Hold on. That's cool, I'm talking to somebody that's from Maps. What? Oh my god. Why can't I zoom? Hold on, what? Why can't I zoom out? There we go. Wow. Austria, Germany, France. Wow. That's awesome. I'm talking to somebody that's from another country. That's pretty cool.
These images, you might think Burning Man is just some totally weird substance-fueled party out in the middle of the desert. And while that is true to some degree, it's not totally accurate. Burning Man is not a party. It's actually an experiment that 70,000 people from all over the world participate in every year. The question this experiment is trying to answer is, can a random segment of the population come together and build a community out of nothing in the middle of nowhere? And can they do it while knowing at the end of Burning Man, which is always 9 days long, everything they build, the sculptures, the shelters, everything will be torn down and destroyed and erased from the planet as if it had never been there in the first place. And amazing of nothing in the middle of nowhere, and can they do it while knowing at the end of Burning Man, which is always 9 days long, everything they build, the sculptures, the shelters, everything will be torn down and destroyed and erased from the planet as if it had never been there in the first place. And amazingly, year after year after year, the answer to this question is yes. Yes, they can. As soon as these 70,000 people descend on this small section of the Nevada desert, they immediately get to work helping each other, building their own sites. I mean, these people largely don't know each other, or in many cases, they don't even speak the same language, but they're showing up with this shared desire to build this temporary community. And so they begin seamlessly working together. And while shelters are being stood up all over the place, other attendees will pull out instruments and form impromptu bands, and then the artists of the group will get together and begin building these kind of strange sculptures. And so very quickly, within only a few hours, every year in Burning Man, this plot of barren desert turns into this beautiful otherworldly utopia full of totally happy and fulfilled and excited strangers. But in 2017, the utopia that was created at that Burning Man was shattered by one man, and his name was Aaron Joel. In 2017, Aaron Joel was a tall, handsome, 41-year-old free spirit who, from the time he was just a little kid, had this sort of restless energy about him. He always needed to be out doing stuff. He could never sit still. And so by the time he was old enough, he left his family home in Oklahoma and moved out to Oregon and moved into this commune. A commune is a group of people that live together and share their possessions and responsibilities. But shortly after moving into this commune, Aaron got restless again. This wasn't enough for him, and so he left the commune and began traveling all over the United States. But after he had basically gone everywhere in the country, he became restless again, and so he left the United States and he went to Nepal and began traveling all over Nepal. And while he was there, he met this wonderful young woman from Switzerland named Ladina, and the two fell madly in love. And then when it was time for Ladina to leave Nepal and go back to her home country, Aaron followed her. And just a couple of years later, in 2014, the pair got married and they bought a house together and settled down in Switzerland. For a time, Aaron and Ladina were very happy. Their life was very simple and straightforward. They loved each other. They loved Switzerland. But in 2017,
I live in America. Or wait, you're probably asking somebody else. Yeah.
Aaron's wanderlust reared its head again. And so he went up to Ladina and he told her that, honey, I need to go out and explore again. I need to go out and be free again. Even if it's just for a couple of days or a week or whatever time it is, I need it. I need it in order to be sane. I don't think Ladina was very pleased about this development. However, she knew her husband and she knew this was important to him and to his mental health. And so she said, okay, honey, you do what you have to do. And so Aaron thought about what he was going to do to satiate this desire to go out and be free again, and he settled on attending that year's Burning Man, something he had never done before. So Aaron leaves Switzerland and he goes back to Oregon in the United States, and he meets up with a very close friend of his named Justin. Justin was actually someone he had lived with in the commune when he was there. And so the two, they link up in Oregon, and from there, they drive in Justin's big van out to Nevada. And when they get to Nevada, they drive out to the Burning Man site, and as they're pulling up up, they see thousands and thousands of other vans and tents and all these people that are out setting up and building this community, this utopia. And so right away, Aaron and Justin, they find their spot, they park their van, they begin to build their own site, and then after that, they pulled their bikes out of the van and began biking around, helping other people out build their sites and build the rest of the community. And so by that afternoon, Aaron and Justin had made lots of new friends, and they were out partying and dancing and singing with total strangers, just totally immersed in the Burning Man experience. That night, Aaron would actually turn in early while Justin would stay up and continue having a good time with the new people he had met. Aaron was just not a night owl. He liked to get a full night's sleep and then get up early and make himself a smoothie and do yoga. And so this was very normal behavior. Justin would later say that he really looked up to Aaron. And in fact, many people that knew Aaron looked up to him because Aaron, on the one hand, was a total free spirit that would just kind of go where the wind would blow him. But at the same time, he was very regimented and disciplined. He took great care of himself, both physically and mentally, and he just seemed wise beyond his years. And he was incredibly charismatic and very...
It's a lot more fun to do live streams when I got people watching instead of just having nobody watching, just talking to myself, pretending that I'm talking to somebody that's watching that's not even watching. So I'm glad that 2 people watching my live stream is enough, and I appreciate that. I might live stream longer now that I got people watching.
Very funny, and so people really flocked to him and really idolized him. One of the traditions of Burning Man has to do with its namesake. Towards the end of every Burning Man, they will build this 40-foot tall wooden man effigy, and they will burn it to the ground, hence the name Burning Man.
That's kind of like the Wicker Man, the book, the old scary 1973 scary movie, and then, well, not scary movie. It's The Wicker Man is not a scary movie. It's messed up, but it's not a scary movie. Then the 2006 remake of The Wicker Man that has Nicolas Cage in it.
And so on the night of the so-called man burn, Aaron told Justin that he was not going to turn in early that night, that instead he was going to stay up and watch the spectacle of this effigy being burned to the ground. Justin was really excited about it, and so was Aaron. And so that evening, Aaron and Justin met up with their new friends they had met while they were at Burning Man, and their group began making their way over to the wooden man effigy. Now, this huge effigy was situated in this huge open clearing, and then standing all around this wooden man are what they called rangers. They're basically security guards for the event that also have some fire training, and they would stand almost shoulder to shoulder or very close to shoulder, facing away from the effigy, forming a perimeter around it. And the rangers' job was to prevent the crowd of 70,000 people from getting too close to the effigy when it was on fire, because it's obviously a huge hazard. And so Aaron, Justin, and their friends, when they got to this clearing and saw the effigy, they would have seen thousands and thousands of event attendees converging on this effigy, getting as close to the rangers as they possibly could on all sides. And so Aaron and Justin and their friends, they make their way up to one particular section of this crowd, and they begin fighting their way through all these people, trying to get as close to the rangers as they possibly could, because they want a good view of this man burn. And then once they were satisfied with their view, they just stopped and waited for the effigy to be lit. But before the effigy was lit, Aaron would turn to Justin and say, "Hey, I have some friends from Switzerland who are here right now. They're on the other side of the effigy, on the other side of the crowd, and I'm going to go see them right now." And so Justin was totally bummed that Aaron was going to be leaving right before this thing is lit, because he wanted to experience this with Aaron. But he said, "Okay, no problem. I'll see you hopefully, before this thing gets lit, or, I'll see you after this burn is done." And so Aaron departed the group, and Justin watched as he kind of disappeared into the crowd. And then Justin turned his attention back towards the effigy, and a little while later, when the sun had gone down and it was totally dark out and the crowd was totally electric as they're waiting for this thing to light, finally they did. They lit the effigy, and as soon as it went up in flames, the crowd of thousands and thousands of people roared with excitement. And this whole time, Justin is totally amazed by what he is watching, but he's also scanning the crowd, kind of hoping that Aaron will eventually pop back up. But at this point, the crowd is so massive and everyone's so tight together that Justin is really not expecting Aaron to come back over to where he had been. It just didn't seem possible. And so this huge wooden man effigy goes up in glorious flames, and everyone's so amazed by it. And then eventually the flames begin to dwindle down as the structure continues.
Do you haven't played Crash Royale, the annoying Supercell game of all time? No, I haven't played Clash Royale. If it's annoying, I won't play it. Does it sound like... Alright, let's go.
Continues to burn lower and lower to the ground. And then finally, when the fire is just about out, the crowd of people begin to disperse. And at this point, Justin again looks around hoping to maybe see Aaron, but, Aaron has not come back yet. And so Justin just says, okay, maybe it's time to leave and go check in with Aaron back at the van. And so he notifies his friends that he's going to turn around and head back. And as Justin turns and begins leaving the crowd, someone who was at the event, who apparently knew Justin and knew Aaron, came running over to Justin and frantically told him this totally shocking story about something that happened to Aaron. Now, at first, Justin just could not believe it. He couldn't even process it. It seemed so outlandish and unbelievable that it just could not have happened. But he was thinking to himself, I haven't seen Aaron since he left to go see his friends from Switzerland, and I have no idea where he is. And so Justin starts looking around the crowd again. He's not seeing Aaron, and he's starting to panic. And so finally, Justin just turns and starts running back towards his van in hopes that Aaron is going to be there. But when he gets back to his van, Aaron is not there, and there's no sign that Aaron has been back after they had left for the man burn.
Do I know who is Supercell? No, I think I heard that game Clash Royale. It sounds familiar, but I don't know who the Supercell is.
It would turn out that shocking story Justin had been told about Aaron was true. This is that shocking story. After
it's party time, people, and Raid Shadow Legends is having their third birthday. And I gotta say, I wish I got these gifts when I first started playing. So if
right when I was just, you can see I leaned my head forward. I was just tuned in to hear what that story was, and yet the freaking advertisement shows up. Flurple, I appreciate you for still watching the stream. What the heck, hold on. Okay, hold on. Let's wait for my mouse to work. There we go. Okay.
Aaron told Justin that he was going to go to the other side of the crowd and spend some time with his friends from Switzerland. He disappeared from the group and he made his way over to that far side of the crowd, but we don't know if he actually met up with friends from Switzerland or if that was just some cover to get away from Justin and the other people he was with. But regardless, at some point, Aaron made his way over to the other side of the effigy, away from Justin and away from his other friends. And once he was over there, he pushed his way towards the front of the crowd until he was right in front of the Rangers with front row seats of the effigy. And then after the effigy was set alight and was fully engulfed in flames, Aaron, at some point, bum rushed one of the Rangers right in front of him and was able to push past him. And then before that Ranger or any other nearby Rangers could stop him, Aaron was able to sprint directly into the bottom of this massive effigy, right into the fire, and he disappeared inside of it. Because the crowd was massive and unruly and many people were under the influence of drugs or alcohol or both, because of all of that, even though Aaron is running into the fire right in front of them, it was like nobody noticed. Everybody was in kind of their own worlds, and it's dark out, there's this fire. I mean, there's so many distractions that really nobody noticed this happening besides the Rangers that were immediately affected by Aaron running past them and some of the people that were right at the front of the crowd watching as Aaron did this. And so this is why Justin and the rest of his friends had no idea this had happened, despite the fact they were watching this fire as this was happening. Aaron would ultimately only be inside of the flames for 12 seconds before the Rangers were able to go inside and pull him out. But by that time, it was already too late. Aaron would would be rushed to the hospital, but he would die that night. It would later be determined that Aaron was completely sober at the time he decided to run into the man, which means he was of clear mind when he decided to do this.
But why?
So it was determined that his death had to be a suicide. However, his family and his friends and anybody who knew him are just totally not buying the idea that he decided to commit suicide, especially like this. It just didn't make any sense. This is not something Aaron would have done. He was acting totally normally. His behavior was not erratic. Something else must have caused this to happen. But unfortunately, at this point, no one has come close to figuring out what this other thing could be. And so to date, his death still remains largely a mystery. Here is a picture one of the bystanders took of Aaron as he charges into the fire.
Dressing up like a damn Indian.
So that's going to do it, guys. If you found the secret in today's episode, let us know in the comments section what it is and where you found it, so give us the timestamp. And if you're the first to do that, we'll pin you at the top of the comment section. If you got something out of today's video and you haven't done this already, please offer to do the like button's laundry, but be sure to stop the dryer while their clothes are still slightly damp. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly. But guys, if you found the secret, but unfortunately, at this point, no one has come close to figuring out what this other thing could be. And so to date, his death still remains largely a mystery. Here is a picture one of the bystanders took of Aaron as he charges into the fire.
My favorite soft drink is Cola and Pepsi. Yeah, I like that stuff too. I like Dr. Pepper. Right, original ones, not diet. I like sugar. I like sugar on coffee. I like sugar on tea. I like sugar on applesauce. Yeah, I have a taste for sugar. Oh my god. I don't get it. Have you guys been listening to Mr. Ballen tell that story like I have? If he was sober, he was not on drugs. Okay. If he was sober and he was not on drugs and he wasn't drinking and he wasn't suicidal, why the hell would he run? Why the hell would he run into this damn fire? Like what the hell? I don't know either, dude. Mr. Ballen explain it. Other people don't know it. Like, it doesn't make any damn sense. Like, why would anybody do that? Alright. We're gonna watch another... Okay, this is the end of the video, so... We're not gonna watch... Okay. Now, shocking footage has been taken inside of this.
There's certain rules to surviving. Believe me, I know. They always come back. The killer is a part of something in the past. But this one just feels different.
You're all in danger.
Mom? Where? Sydney.
I've seen this movie before.
Not this movie.
I can't wait to watch it.
Go finish it, Sydney.
Run!
What the hell? He's got a refrigerator in the garage.
I'll be right back.
He's dead.
Now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus. Rated R.
Rated R. Okay.
Today's story includes
advertisements like these. Okay, I get annoyed with just dumb advertisements that I don't even care about that show up over and over again. Like recently when I've been doing reaction videos, there's this guy, I think his name is Mr. Beast. He's been showing, he's like, I want everybody to go into every single computer in your house. Your mom, your dads, your sisters, your brothers, and blah, 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 blah. To download this software. I'm like, you think I give a shit, dude? So yeah, it would annoy me. But with movie trailers, good movie trailers that are exciting that I can't wait to watch, because that's different. That's why I never skipped any of the Scream trailer, the new scary movie Scream. That's why I never skipped any of those trailers, because I just like watching it. I'm just excited to watch it. So that's why I would just sit there and just wait until the ad is done, instead of just skipping it when I could at any time. I'm just chatting in the chat. I not listen to the stream, but don't be mad at me, please. Well, you're probably going to be listening and watching at some point. You might catch something. I don't know. Hold on, filters. There's like filters in. Oh, I can't. I'm probably already streaming, so it won't let me. That's fine.
Today's story includes some of the most dramatic police footage I've ever seen in my life. So if you're on the fence about watching today's upload, I would encourage you to stick around just for that. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, then you've come to the right place, because that's all we do, and we upload once or twice every week. So if that's of interest to you, please draw a gun on the like button and force them to retie your untied shoelaces right after you've stomped around inside of a bathroom of an outdoor music festival. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly uploads. All right, let's get into today's story.
Right after stop music festival. What? Okay. Okay, whatever.
In 2015, 29-year-old Johnny Coxey and his wife, 25-year-old Megan Coxey, were living in a low-income section of Spartanburg, South Carolina. They both struggled mightily.
That guy looks like Steve-O and Jackass. Alright.
With drug addiction to the point...
I might stop this live stream after this video is done. I enjoy watching live streams, especially... Okay. I enjoy live streaming a lot more when I have a lot of people watching, because I love entertaining people. And what's the point of doing live streams when, like, I love entertaining people? What's the point of doing that stuff when you don't have anybody to entertain but yourself? All right, let's continue.
Where it was nearly impossible to get steady work, and so they often found themselves out on the streets begging for money. Their addictions also made it nearly impossible to be a good parent to their only child. And in fact, in December of that year, Child Protective Services stepped in and took their child away from them. And if that wasn't bad enough, almost immediately after their child was taken from them, both Megan and Johnny were arrested and thrown in jail for various offenses that were connected to their drug habits. So Johnny and Megan are at absolute rock bottom at this point as they're sitting in jail, but they were about to get a big break. After they both got out of jail, they were only in jail for a couple of days, Megan was contacted by a local, very successful real estate agent named Todd Kohlhepp. Todd was someone she had met previously when she used to be a waitress at a local diner, and Todd was reaching out to her to somewhat unbelievably offer her and her husband pretty decent paying jobs. Apparently, Todd had recently purchased this massive 95-acre plot of land in the area, and he needed people to come onto the property and help clean it up and clear brush and clean some of the buildings that are on there, because his plan was to further develop this property. And so he had been reaching out to other people in Spartanburg to see if they were interested, and Megan and her husband were two people he had contacted. And so, of course, Megan and Johnny say, yes, we would love to do this job. They were in desperate need of cash, and paying jobs did not come around very often. So on December 19th of that year, Megan spoke to her mother and told her about this job opportunity and where it was and what she'd be doing.
Okay, Victor.
And then she and Johnny made their way out to this property, and when they got there, they saw this huge chain link fence wrapped around what seemed like a massive forest, and this forest was the 95-acre plot of land that Todd owned. And so apparently at the center of this forest were a few buildings that Johnny and Megan would be responsible for cleaning. And so they made their way down the fence line until they found the break in the fence, and that led to an access road, and they began driving down it deep into the heart of this forest. 3 days later...
Hold on.
Attention gamers. Man, I wish I found this program sooner.
Okay, yeah,
Outplayed
this is the
records highlights of your
advertisement
game
that I don't give
completely
a shit about.
Megan's mother tried to get in touch with her, but she couldn't. And when she reached out to Johnny, she couldn't get in touch with him either. And so given the couple's history with drugs, Megan's mother thought the worst, that, maybe they overdosed. And so she panics and she rushes to Megan and Johnny's house. They're not there. And so something in her gut tells her that something is wrong here. It's not common for them to just completely go off the grid. And so she called the police. The police began their investigation by speaking to Todd Kohlhepp, who was the owner of this property, because presumably he was one of the last people to see them before they went missing. But when they spoke to Todd, he said, look, I had limited interaction with them. They were on my property. They came out, they cleaned these 2 buildings on my property, and then I paid them and they left. And we haven't had any contact since. So, unfortunately, I don't have a clue where they would have gone next. And so at this point, the police decide their best bet is just to wait and see what happens. Although they did not tell Johnny or Megan's families this, the police force did have a running suspicion that, it was possible, if not likely, that the couple had used the money from cleaning up this property to go buy drugs, and then they went on a drug binge, and they would either turn up in a couple of days alive or dead from an overdose. But a couple of days went by, and the couple did not reemerge, and no one had any idea where they were. And then a couple of weeks went by, and then a couple of months went by, and it wasn't long before the case went cold. But it would not stay cold for very long. On August 31st, 2016, so roughly 8 months after the Coxies were reported missing, 2 more residents of Spartanburg went missing as well. They were 30-year-old Kayla Brown and her boyfriend, 32-year-old Charlie Carver. The pair had only been dating for about a month, but they were becoming quite serious, with Charlie already introducing Kayla to his family, a step that Charlie's father said.
Do you know the conflict in 2013-2014 of talking Angela game? That was very horrifying time, very horrible time, dude. The talking Angela game. No, never heard of that. I know it sounds like that. I'm not a gaming freak because I am a diehard. Well, not diehard. I am a big time movie freak, but certain games like that, I don't know. Like, I just show you. I have Steam. I played games on there, but no, I never heard of that.
Was a very big deal for him. Unlike the Coxies, Kayla and Charlie were not struggling with drug addiction or with financial issues. They were actually pretty well off. Charlie worked full-time operating a printer at a local business, and Kayla made a living by doing odd jobs around town. According to their families, it seemed like the couple was very happy with their lives and the directions they were going. But starting on the evening of August 31st, Kayla and Charlie stopped returning text messages or answering phone calls. Charlie's father was especially close with Charlie, and so this sudden silence was immediately noticed by him, but he kind of ruled it out and thought, you know what, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for why he's not texting me back, and so, I'll hear from him over the next couple of days. But over the next couple of days, Charlie continued not to answer text messages or pick up phone calls, same with Kayla, and so after 48 hours of this total silence, Charlie...
No, I never played the Talking Angela game. Sorry.
His father finally hopped in his car and drove to his son's house to see if he was there, and he wasn't. And then he drove to Kayla's place, and she wasn't there either. And so none of it made any sense, and so he called the police and he reported them missing. The police started with absolutely no leads, and so what they did to begin their investigation was basically just to interview everybody in Charlie and Kayla's life. Friends, family, acquaintances, employers, co-workers, everyone, but no one had any idea where this couple had gone to. They had not told anyone.
Okay, Temple Run, yes. A lot. Temple Run, oh. That game I've played a long time ago. I remember the first Temple Run. It was fun. My parents played it. Yeah, it's where you have to run a temple, get away from this big gigantic panther that's behind you, and you have to run. You have to flick up to jump. You have to flick right to turn right. You have to flick left to turn left. You gotta flick down to, like, slide down and duck. Yeah. Yeah, then they came out with Temple Run 2. I remember playing that game on my mom's iPhone 3 when I was like 7 or 8 years old, back in that farmhouse that I loved so much. Oh yeah. Subway Surfers? No. Temple Run? Yes. I remember that. That you just gave me a flashback that had memories come back to me.
About some trip they were going on or something they were going to do. It just seemed like they had vanished. And so initially, this investigation really got nowhere. But 2 months after they had been reported missing, the police finally obtained a search warrant that would allow them to look at their respective cell phone records. And when they looked at Kayla's cell phone records, they were able to triangulate roughly where her last known location was, according to pings her cell phone was sending off to nearby cell phone towers. And they discovered her last known location, at least of her cell phone, was in...
I don't know about iPhone 3G, but I know it was an iPhone 3. I remember playing Minecraft Pocket Edition on there a long time ago, too. I had this amazing world that I've built for a while. I built a movie theater. No, I never played Subway Surfers. But yeah, I remember I was always borrowing my mom's phone a lot to either play Minecraft or just watch YouTube. Yeah, those were good times. That was back at the farmhouse too.
Inside of the same 95-acre plot of land that the Coxies had been in before they went missing. And so immediately the police put in for a search warrant to go search this 95-acre property, and they sent a team actually out to the property, and they actually set up outside of that big fence and just waited for the search warrant to clear. And at the same time, another group of police officers went to Todd Colehep's house, which was actually in town about 20 minutes away from this property, to talk to him about why in the world Kayla's cell phone would be pinging inside of his property. And so when the police arrive at his front doorstep, Todd is obviously caught off guard by suddenly there being all these police officers. And he does understand.
CS GO. I don't know what you mean. But League of Legends, I haven't played. I heard of it. I've heard of it. I've heard of League of Legends. I never played, but I know that game. That I do know. I know that game.
And very quickly how unbelievably suspicious it looks that now you have potentially 2 couples that have gone onto his property right before they vanished. And so he says to them, look, I know how this looks, but I gotta tell you, I did hire Kayla and her boyfriend did come along with her. She went onto my property. She did some work for me. She cleaned up some stuff, cleared some brush, and then I paid them and then they left. That is the last I saw of them. I have no idea why her phone would be on my property. At the same time, the team of police officers were kind of grilling Todd at his house.
You just got wrecked? What do you mean? What do you mean you just got wrecked? Because I pointed out your mistake of counter-strikes. Oh well.
Other team that was outside of the 95-acre property, they found out their search warrant had been granted. And so they flew through the gate, they got on that access road, and they began bombing into this huge forest. And as they're driving, they pull out their maps they had printed out that showed the rough estimation of where her final location was within this property. And it looked like the last spot was inside of a clearing. And so as they're driving down this access road through all these trees, they see up ahead, there is a clearing, and it looks very much like the clearing on their map where this final location is. And when they pull into the clearing, off to the left side of the road are these 2 green buildings. The left building was like a shed, like something you might keep yard tools in, like lawnmowers and shovels and rakes, that kind of thing. And then right next to it on the right was this metal shipping container, and it had all these metal chains and 5 padlocks keeping it shut. Now, of course, the police are thinking, oh my goodness, is Kayla inside one of these buildings? Because this is probably where her last location was. And so right away, the police went inside of the left building, the shack, because it was easier to get into. There weren't padlocks all over it. And when they got inside, there really was nothing of note. Kayla was not in there. Charlie was not in there. There was no cell phone in there. It was just gardening tools. And so they went over to the right building, the shipping container, and they got out their metal cutting saws and their bolt cutters, and they began cutting into all of these locks and chains. And when they finally got that door open, they were absolutely astounded at what they saw inside.
Did you know that you can make a full-time income from YouTube without ever trying to grow your own channel? It's true. Back in 2020, I made over $4 million from just one crappy little video that I uploaded to YouTube off my iPhone in my apartment here in Boston, Massachusetts. Well, a lot of people might hear that and say, that's crazy. How do you make money from YouTube without trying to grow your own channel, without endlessly churning out videos? Well, the reason I think most people struggle to make income from YouTube is they go about it in the completely wrong way. They essentially try and build an audience from scratch, endlessly posting videos, hoping that someone will finally pay attention to them in the hopes that eventually, maybe months and years down the line, it's finally going to pay off. And we all know that rarely ever happens. What I do and what a small group of savvy people all over the world are doing are tapping into existing, already profitable audiences that have been built on YouTube that almost nobody else knows about, and utilizing those untapped gold mines to make a full-time income from YouTube in as little as 7 to 10 days. If that sounds at all interesting to you, I encourage you to click on this ad, as I'm not only going to be showing you in a live case study video exactly how I was able to make over $4 million from just one single YouTube video, but also how countless number of my students from all over the world are utilizing this untapped YouTube method to make a full-time income online without any of the typical hassles that come with trying to make a YouTube channel and trying to make a full-time income online from something that you're actually passionate about. During this no BS case study video, I'm not only going to be showing you live undeniable proof that this is the real deal, but I'm also going to be giving you the actual steps that you need to take within the next 7 days that are actually going to allow you to start making a full-time income online from YouTube without ever trying to grow your own channel from scratch. I know you might be watching this, you might think this sounds too good to be true, and I get it. There's a lot of BS out there on the internet nowadays. That's why I promise you on this live case study video, there's not going to be any of the typical Lamborghinis or Ferraris or any of that BS that's really just designed to catch your attention. It really is just going to be live, undeniable proof that this is something that's working in 2022 and something that you can tap into literally within the next 7 days. That said, this case study video is not going to be online forever. In fact, my team has urged me to take it offline before too many people start learning about this and start tapping into these untapped gold mines that exist on YouTube. So if that sounds at all interested to you, click on the link around this video, sign up for the free case study video, and you can start watching it literally within the next 2 minutes. I hope to see you there. It's going to be amazing, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I want to pay YouTube Premium. Even the dogs and cats have played the mobile game. Sorry, I never heard of it, dude. I know it sounds stupid. Anyways, that ad... Yeah, I don't know if I should trust that... That guy made $4 million off of one crap. I know it's possible to make a short video and it all of a sudden has 18 million views. There's memes of that shit. But that does sound good, too good to be true. I don't know if I'm gonna click that. I don't know if I'm gonna click. I don't know. It's not that I don't trust it. I just don't. Well, I don't. Maybe it is I don't trust it. I don't know. That shit YouTube ads. Rest in peace, brain cells. Fuck YouTube ads. Let's just get to the good part of this video. Yes. I haven't played Subway Surfers when I was in 1st grade. Oh, cool.
Yes. Pull that one first. All right, let them get ready. Y'all ready? Come on, guys. Back. It's jammed in here. Give me that crowbar back. Where's that? Get that big crowbar in. Right here. John, put it down here. Yeah, behind the watch out. Y'all move.
Cool. I'm in 10th grade, and I'm going to be in 11th.
Joey. Sheriff's office. What? Grab that. Back up there. Just one. Are you okay? Grab what? Go. Do you have any weapons? Coming through, okay? What's your name? What's your name, man? Lauren. Gotcha. All right. Just a girl. Just a girl. Just a girl. How are you, honey?
Just a girl. What?
This is our best. He's a paramedic, sweetheart. Oh yeah. Okay, we're gonna get you out of there. Okay. Just hang loose for me. Anybody got? I need a handcuff key.
The police had just discovered Kayla. She was in rough shape, and she had a metal chain wrapped around her neck that was anchored to the wall, and she was handcuffed, but she was alive. And after they cut her free and got her out of the shipping container, she told them what happened. She said back on August 31st, 2016, so this was the same day that Charlie's father had realized his son was not responding.
Minecraft is a game that I've played since I was in 1st grade. I first started playing Minecraft back in 2012. I think it was the 4th of July, 2012. And I was still living in the farmhouse. And here, I'll show you. And here, I got Minecraft Launcher, Minecraft Java Edition. It's right here. Yep, right here. And I got some Minecraft mods download. I got this Optifine Forge. Yeah. I'll talk about Minecraft mods in another day in a different live stream, but that's for another video. Yeah, that's cool, Victor.
Responding to his text messages, and when he was calling Kayla, she wasn't answering either. So on that day, Kayla says she was contacted by a friend of hers, Todd Colehep, and he told her that he was still looking for people to come out and help clean up the property because he was getting ready to develop it. And so Kayla, she was looking for work, and so she agreed to do it. And after getting this job, Kayla would tell Charlie, and Charlie, just being a good boyfriend, said, you know what, I'll tag along with you and I'll help you do this job. I won't ask Todd for any money. I'm just gonna go and help you. And so Kayla was totally thrilled about this. And so later that day, she and Charlie, they made their way out to the 95-acre property. They reached that fence that kind of borders the entire property. They followed it until they hit that break in the fence. They hopped on the access road and they began driving into the heart of this very thick forest. And after driving for several minutes, they reached this clearing. And in this clearing, they see Todd up ahead on the left. He's smiling and waving at them. And he's standing in front of the shack and the metal shipping container. And so Charlie pulls the car in right in front of Todd, and then Charlie and Kayla, they get out, they walk up to Todd to, see what he needs, see what he wants them to do. And as soon as the couple is standing in front of Todd, Todd just casually pulls out a gun and shoots Charlie 3 times in the chest. And as soon as Charlie falls to the ground, Todd aims the gun at Kayla and says, if you go anywhere, I will kill you and I will kill your family. And then he put the gun away, walked over to Charlie, and he wrapped him up in a...
Guys, if there's a kidnapper that said that I will kill your family, that's bullshit. How the hell would they try to kill your family? They might kill one person in your family, but the rest? That's bullshit. That's impossible. Even if they try to do it, it would make it obvious that somebody is killing them. It's been 7 years and I still love Minecraft and playing Minecraft today. It's been 9 or 10 years for me. But yeah. Anyways, if they say, I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill your family, that's just bullshit. They're doing that to scare you. Just like Marilyn Manson said, keep everyone afraid and they'll consume. If they're gonna say, if you go anywhere, I'll kill you and I'll kill your family, that's not gonna happen. Even if they try to do it, they would easily get caught like that. Well, kill you, yes, they would kill you, but the kill your family part, that's bullshit. The part where he says, I'll kill you and kill your family, he would kill you, but he wouldn't kill your family. You'd be dead, but at least your family would be alright. Kidnapper is fucking bullshit nightmare. Yeah, it is.
A blue tarp, and then he carried his lifeless body and dumped him in the nearby bucket of a tractor. And then Todd just walked back over to Kayla, who's witnessed this entire thing. She is so terrified she can't even move, and she's just staring at Todd. And Todd draws his gun again at her and orders her to go into the shipping container. So he brings her inside, he locks her up, and for 65 days, she would remain his prisoner. And over the course of those 65 days, Todd would once or twice a day come down and do whatever he wanted with her. And he told her at the outset that if she ever tried to resist him in any way and didn't do whatever he wanted with her, he would not only kill her, he would also kill her family. And so Kayla very early on decided she would not.
I'm glad I do, Victor.
She just kind of accepted that this was her life, that she would be horribly mistreated, and then probably at some point he would grow tired of her and kill her, but at least she would be sparing her family. And so when the police finally went into that shipping container, Kayla truly did not expect ever to be rescued. So when you watch that video, you need to understand that was someone who believed she was 100% going to die inside of that space. And so after Kayla tells the police officers this totally horrible and traumatic story, they immediately radio over to the other team of police officers that were still at Todd Kohlhepp's residence, still talking to him. And they told him, hey, this is what Kayla just told us. Todd's reaction to this news was also captured on video.
Oh shit.
Hey you!
Come on!
Me? Yeah, you! Don't you want to play something different?
Oh my god, I wanted to see that guy's reaction. Legends never die, yeah. I wanted to see that reaction.
We have Kayla. Excuse me. We have Kayla in your property. She was locked in a container. Okay? She has told us that you shot and killed Charlie. Why did you shoot him?
I didn't shoot anybody, sir.
Okay, why did you lock her in a container in your property?
I was talking.
She's on your property right now, locked in a container. She's saying you buried Charlie's body on that property. So you're saying you didn't lock her up, you didn't put her in the Connex box or anything?
I'm money an attorney.
Probably a good thing. Go ahead and put him in the back of your car.
Even though Todd would initially deny any wrongdoing and would claim he had nothing to do with what happened to Kayla or Charlie, he would eventually confess not only to killing Charlie and kidnapping Kayla, but also to killing Johnny and Megan Coxey. Apparently, he had done to them what he did to Kayla and Charlie. He had lured the Coxeys onto his property on the promise of work, and then when they reached those two structures, he drew a gun and he shot Johnny and killed him, and then he ordered Megan to go inside of the shipping container. Now, unlike Kayla, who would ultimately comply, and it did save her life, Megan did not. She fought back. She was totally resistant. She wouldn't do anything that he wanted her to do. And so after only 5 days of her being in captivity, he would kill her. And the way he would describe her was, oh, you know, she was acting like a wild animal, so I had to put a bullet in the back of her head. He didn't care at all about these people he had killed. Charlie, Johnny, and Megan's bodies would all be discovered in shallow graves right outside of that shipping container. Knowing he was potentially facing the death penalty and wanting to avoid that, Todd told police after he had confessed to these murders that he could actually confess to even more murders, and if he did, could they take the death penalty off the table? And so the police ultimately would agree, and Todd would tell them that back in 2003, he had walked into a motorbike shop and killed 4 of their staff members. Apparently, a couple of days earlier, they had offended him in some way. He had gone in there and they had kind of made some snide remark about how he was bad at riding motorcycles. It was kind of in good fun. It was not meant to be very mean, but Todd had taken it as an absolute offense and he could not stand for it. And so literally in broad daylight, he had walked back in into this store and gunned all of them down. And then once they were all down, he had walked by each of them and put an additional round into each of their heads. And so as Todd is telling the police this terrible story, he's totally nonchalant about it. He's laughing about it, and he's even bragging to police that they would be proud of him at how quickly he cleared the Superbike shop, meaning how quickly he got in there and killed everyone inside. That somehow, because police officers use weapons too, they would appreciate how efficient he was. These 4 murders would be the only additional murders Todd would confess to, and they would be enough to take the death penalty off the table. But it's believed Todd had killed more people. In fact, he had blatantly admitted to Kayla when she was in captivity that his body count was in the high 2 digits. And most likely he was telling her this because he planned on killing her before she could ever escape and tell anyone. But of course, she was rescued, and so the world now knows. However, if Todd never confesses to any more murders, there's a very good chance we'll never know about them.
What? If you never have played Subway Surfers for the first time, then you will get a gold medal from your school. Okay. I didn't get a gold medal because I didn't know that game existed. Hold on, I want to hear this again.
That his body count was in the high 2 digits. And most likely he was telling her this because he planned on killing her before she could ever escape and tell anyone. But of course, she was rescued, and so the world now knows. However, if Todd never confesses to any more murders, there's a very good chance we'll never know about them. One of the more disturbing aspects of this case is after it became public that Todd Kohlhepp was the killer, someone discovered that an anonymous account was doing all these product reviews on Amazon, and this anonymous account was Todd Kohlhepp. And the products he was reviewing were things like knives and shovels and chainsaws, and the reviews literally were about how he planned on using these tools to kill people, or they were how he had used these tools to kill people, or how he had disposed of bodies. And then there was also a couple of reviews of padlocks, and one of the reviews said he had 5 of them on a shipping container, and so now the shipping container was just like Hotel California. Hotel California is the famous song by the band The Eagles, and in this song, the famous line is, "You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave." Todd was ultimately sentenced to 7 consecutive life sentences, which means he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. So that's going to do it, guys. If you got something out of today's episode and you haven't done this already, please draw a gun on the like button and force them to retie your untied shoelaces right after you've stomped around inside of the bathroom of an outdoor music festival. Also, please subscribe to our channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of our weekly 1 or 2 video uploads. We are now selling merchandise like
Todd Cole. Okay, there it is. Born March 7th, 1971. He is 51 years old today, and he's still alive. Date apprehended November 3rd, 2016. Convictions: kidnapping in Arizona, South Carolina, murder 7 counts. Kidnapping 3 counts, 1st-degree criminal sexual misconduct. I had a feeling that's what he did also. Criminal penalty was 15 years imprisonment in South Carolina, life imprisonment without parole. His parents, education, upstate. Whatever. So yeah, this asshole is still alive. I am going to end this video. I may not do any more reactions to Mr. Ballen until the new video comes up. Or maybe I might. 6 hours ago, that's a new video. Alright. This was a good live stream. I'm glad that you guys watched it. Thank you, Victor. Right now, I'm sitting in an uncomfortable place without my office chair. And this is the best way I can set up with 2 screens. So yeah. I hope you all enjoyed this live stream. I will be able to see you guys next time. Bye. Read your last comment. Okay, hold on. Yes, Victor? What's your last? What's the last thing that you want to say to me before I end this stream? Okay, I'll just... Bye.